I read something that was said at the rallies. I just kept Googling and seeing poetry and incredibly powerful statements. But there was one thing I read that I think relates to all of us. It said, if you want to honor the victims, make this the year to find your flag, to find your rainbow, to find your freedom to be proud, to live who you are. And a whole lot of people told me, you really don't want to start the RA on something as heartbreaking as Orlando. You can see we kind of changed things up this morning. I wanted to give my keynote first. And I knew that you wouldn't want it any other way than to begin with how important our work is. When we come together, there's usually such pure joy in this room. The folks in the back that are just starting out, they're kind of looking around going, are they always like this? Are they always dancing in the aisle? And, I have to explain to them that we are really weird people. And we are people who actually like the idea of sitting in a room without windows with 10,000 other really weird people, using parliamentary procedure just for fun. Good times. But inside this room, it's a family. This is our family reunion. And I've seen it. We've been in the middle of hot and heavy debates where people are really passionate about what they believe in. And when it's all over, we take a vote, and we're still family. This is a really safe place. But I thought it was fitting to start by acknowledging that there is a real world out there, and it is not a safe place. It's a dangerous place. And the work we do in this safe place really is important. We have the chance to change the world out there by the decisions that we'll make here. The decisions that we make here will impact that dangerous world. It's not a game. It's life. And sometimes it's death. And there is nothing more real. I'm inspired by what brings us into this room every year. I'm inspired by the mission of the National Education Association, of our union, that we, the members of the National Education Association, accept the profound trust that's been placed in us, that we will advocate for our students and our colleagues and the integrity of our professions, that we will unite our members and the entire nation, and that we won't wait for anyone's permission. We will take the lead in fulfilling the promise of public education to prepare every blessed student to thrive, to succeed, to love living in a diverse and interdependent world. That world is complicated, and that didn't intimidate you. Those of you that were here last year, you know what we did. This representative assembly spoke with one unified voice and set us on a course to directly take on one of the most complex, divisive, dangerous issues in our country: institutional racism. And racism is a hard thing to talk about. It sounds like we're not being patriotic to admit that we're not perfect, that it still exists. But it does. It exists in who gets pulled over and who gets hired and who goes to a public school with everything a student needs to succeed and who doesn't. And last year you were very, very clear that we would use whatever power at our disposal to combat a disease that's infected us as a country from our birth. This is Independence Day. I taught my sixth graders in Utah. Hi, Utah. I taught them the Schoolhouse Rock preamble to the Constitution. Yeah, if you remember that, you're old. But we look good. Secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. And then I taught them that the Constitution, when it was written, ourselves and our posterity, didn't include women. It didn't include American Indians. It didn't include people who were enslaved. And then I taught them that our Constitution was written by men who had vision. They believed that things would inevitably change. They just couldn't imagine how that would happen. So they planned it to be a living document that could change with the times. And good people, patriots, dreamers, social justice warriors, they've amended it over the years to be more inclusive of all races, to be inclusive of women. Our Supreme Court, empowered by the Constitution to interpret the laws, declared that separate was inherently unequal, and it outlawed racial segregation. It found that the equal rights guaranteed in the Constitution do indeed protect the equal right of LGBT people to marry the person they love. The moral arc of the universe is long, and hearts and minds are bending towards justice. But if our institutions, our policies, our programs, our practices don't change, then the oppressive conditions that people face won't change either. They'll stay the same. We've had institutional racism in our own union's house, and we weren't afraid to acknowledge it and to do something about it. At this RA, we're going to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the merger of the NEA with the ATA, the American Teachers Association, that represented black teachers in the segregated South. Our eyes are on the prize of eradicating institutional racism wherever we find it. And while we focus on racial injustice, we cannot close our eyes to others who face discrimination, to others who are denied their right to pursue happiness, their right to simply live. Matthew Shepard was a young gay college student in Wyoming, brutally beaten on a lonely road, who died of his wounds in 1998. And we thought we'd come so far in 18 years. Last month, 49 men and women celebrating Latino Night were dancing in a gay nightclub in Orlando, the happiest place on earth. And they were gunned down for being LGBTQ. And we're reminded how much work is left to do for everyone in every community to be safe. As president of the NEA, I've talked a lot about toxic testing, but now we're living under a toxic, choking environment where entire groups of people are demonized, they're targeted, they're terrorized. And I see a political agenda here. Think about it. For years, we saw state legislators all across the country passing laws against marriage equality. The Supreme Court ended that debate on the side of equality. Yeah. And within a heartbeat, state legislators all over the country suddenly decided that the real threat to America wasn't gay marriage. It was which bathroom a transgender student can legally use. Now, no one ever claimed that there was a problem to solve, and no one had ever thought that this was something they needed to do before. But all at once, politicians in state after state began filing strangely similar pieces of legislation. Gee, it's almost like there's a plan to drum up divisiveness and fear in a political year. And the LGBTQ community is their convenient target. There's always been a target: immigrants, women, sexual orientation, race. You know, we've had our disagreements with the Obama administration, but a lot of us remember crying watching his inauguration. It was just something we'd never thought that we'd see in our lifetime. And people like me, we thought maybe the election of an African-American president was the signal that we were seeing a world that was more just and more accepting, that your race, your gender, your religion, your sexual orientation, your gender identity wouldn't define you. It wouldn't make you a target. But people are still targeted without shame by demagogues who use fear and divisiveness for their own political gain. So let's talk about the Donald. This is a man who has made his living selling his name as a brand, so he knows how important a name is. He likes calling people names. Lion Ted, Little Marco. I have my own name for Donald. Do you want to hear it? I can't tell you because my mom's sitting in the audience. You might have your own name, you know? And we all laughed. We all laughed a year ago. A reality TV star who can't open his mouth without insults and accusations with no basis, lies, threats. A man whose most senior political advisor is, I read it on the internet. And he's not kidding. So we won't call names. I'll just stick to the facts. And the fact is, Donald Trump is a racist. Donald led the birther movement, launching a personal crusade, accusing the first African-American president of not being American, of not being our legitimate president. He accused Mexican immigrants in general of being drug dealers, criminals, rapists. At a campaign event, he started griping about a federal judge who was hearing the fraud case against his Trump university, and the air quotes are part of their registered trademark. He says the judge isn't capable of doing his job. Why? Because his parents were born in Mexico. Republican Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, says that statement is the definition of racism. But let me tell you about that judge. That judge that he knows so little about took on a major drug cartel when he was a federal prosecutor. He got credit for cracking a major drug case and was under a death threat. He needed federal protection from drug gangs who were trying to kill him for doing his job so courageously, so well. That judge is the definition of courage and public service. He is a man of impeccable intelligence. He is a hero. How dare Donald impugn this brave man's character? But a bully has no problem pushing people around who don't do what he wants them to do. When Republican Senator John McCain said something critical of Donald attacked. He said, look, he's not a war hero, he just got captured. I like people who didn't get captured. John McCain was a Navy pilot who was shot down over Vietnam and spent 5.5 years as a prisoner of war. He was offered early release, but he refused because there were other prisoners who had been there longer. Donald is a self-serving man who loves to talk tough and so easily about going to war, and yet he belittles the sacrifice of a prisoner of war. I'm an Army brat. My father was a soldier. My husband was a soldier. My baby brother was a soldier. I know people whose loved ones didn't make it home. How dare he mock their service? Donald is a sexist. He routinely refers to women as bimbos, slobs, pigs, dogs, and other words I can't tell you because my mother will wash my mouth out with soap. Donald is ignorant of our own Constitution. He said as president he will impose a religious test. He will ban all Muslims from entering the country. He will call for special government surveillance against mosques. Donald is a fraud, bankrupting businesses and losing other people's money while he paid himself millions in bonuses. He preyed on vulnerable people who gave him their last dollar with promises from his fake university that it would help them make a better living. He's made promises to the gun lobby that on his first day in office, with all the things that he could do, he is going to eliminate the ability of a community to declare that their schools are gun-free zones. I could go on, but I don't have to. You know I'm not making this up. You know I'm not calling him names. You know that what I'm saying is true. And you know me. You know I can get so emotional. But I am not easily frightened. I want you to know why I'm so emotional about this race. It is because for the first time, I am terrified. I am terrified that this man made it this far. This unfit, unworthy man. Donald will be the Republican nominee for President of the United States of America. And let me tell you who I'm really proud of. I am so proud that more and more Republicans are bravely speaking up, saying they will never support Donald Trump. They are putting their country before their party. And I applaud them, and I hope you give them a great big hug when you see them. They see what I see, that Donald Trump is a racist, a sexist, a hypocritical, egotistical, thin-skinned bully who must never get 1,000 miles in front of the White House. Politics ain't beanbag. That came from an Irish writer in 1895. And what he meant was, it's not a child's game. It's mean and it's rough, and if you're going to get in it, you better get in it to win. And we have always known that. It is why we have never been silent in politics, because we know it matters who wins. This is my 30th Representative Assembly. Yes, I was sitting right there with Utah at the age of 9. Work with me, people. And in 30 years, I've gotten to know a whole lot of people that are sitting in this room right now. I know you. We have laughed together. We have cried together. And we have talked about this race, hot and heavy, for a year. And I want you to know why my voice trembles just a little when we do. Because it doesn't just matter to our union. It matters to the world. Who wins? It matters who the president is. So let me go back to what I began to say about President Obama. It was an absolute understatement to say to you that we've had differences with this administration. For goodness sakes, we called for the resignation of his Secretary of Education. But I will tell you this too. I stood over his shoulder and I watched him take out a pen and sign out of existence for all time, no child left untested. I saw him put in its place a law designated, designed to make sure that students have the opportunity to succeed regardless of their zip code. That didn't just happen. You sent educators, you sent your members to talk to members of Congress, you sent students and parents who testified at hearings. We tweeted, we blogged, we put thousands of calls and emails into those congressional offices. And you met with them, and they came home. They brought this to us. We showed them what it means to teach and what it means to learn. We showed them that educators can work with parents. We can advocate for what our students truly need. And that's who we are. But we didn't just say, stop the stupid. That would be good. But we said, why not start something smart? It's not that we don't want information, we just don't want useless information. We want a dashboard of really good indicators, indicators of success that go beyond a standardized test. And for the first time, we want indicators of service and support and programs. What did the system give the kids in this school to help them succeed? Which kids have professional librarians, school nurses? What's your counselor to student ratio? Who has access to paraprofessionals who can tutor? Who get AP classes? And which kids don't even get recess? We want to know the whole picture of serving that whole child. And President Obama signed the Every Student Succeeds Act. It ended high-stakes, federally mandated testing. And it gave us a fighting chance, state, to start measuring things that matter to real kids. And it's in the law that states have to involve practitioners, have to involve us, the ones who know the names of the kids, in developing what's going on that state dashboard and how it's going to be implemented. And some states are going to be really smart, and they're going to include us, and some states aren't. But what we've got is the opportunity that we didn't have before, and we're not going to waste that opportunity. Whether we get invited or whether we have to crash the party, we are showing up. And your state leaders want you to show up with them. So we're going to bring our best ideas. We're going to get this right. But it did take a president to open that door, to give us the chance to something better. But he didn't just do that on testing. It took a president to find a way to give a safe haven to our dreamers, something to allow those who arrived as undocumented children, who stayed in school, who were never in trouble with the law, to get them to be able to attend college, to get a job, to serve their country while we all wait for comprehensive immigration reform. It took a president to get the middleman banks out of the federal student loan program. It took a president to repeal don't ask, don't tell policies in the military. It took a president to take a giant leap forward into affordable health care for millions of people. I had families that I served where their primary care plan was lighting a candle and praying they wouldn't get sick. Now they have a chance. It took a president to appoint Hilda Solis and then Tom Perez as secretaries of labor. This president appointed Elena Kagan and Sonia Sotomayor to the Supreme Court. So think about it. The next president will have a profound impact on that Supreme Court. Politics ain't beanbag. And no, it's not perfect. No candidate is perfect. But we won something better for our students, for the families we serve, for entire communities. We moved forward in achieving our mission because of a president that we helped elect, because we didn't sit it out. We made choices and we made them, organized around them, we acted. Now, I focused this morning on the record of Donald Trump, because in any campaign, you better know what the world would look like should you lose. But our choice will not come from our fear of losing. We have the possibility of a different world, and we have to believe in what that world can look like if we win with the right president, no matter who she is. It's up to us to get out there and work to elect a president who believes that as a nation we're stronger when we're together. Because, delegates, you know, this election is about so much more than politics. Tomorrow you are going to hear a candidate who will ask for our support in the general election. This is a candidate who cares deeply about our students and about our professions. And while I'll talk more about her tomorrow, I want to tell you why for so many years I have been inspired. I've been inspired by her dedication to children, her leadership on issues that are closest to our hearts. I watched her bring Republicans and Democrats together for children's health care. She's fought for children with disabilities. She's fought for children with dreams. She has fought for women and unions and working families all her life. You will have power and influence in choosing our next president. You will have a voice in shaping the future of this country. And that is unimaginably powerful in this imperfect world. A lot of people don't care about making that choice. They stay home. They let someone else do it. I could never do that. And I will tell you, it was because 8 years ago, someone helped me focus inside myself why it's wrong to do that. 8 years ago, I was sitting in a taxi, leaving the Denver airport, heading for the convention to nominate Senator Barack Obama for President of the United States. And I have a habit that when I hear a taxi driver with an accent, I always ask where he's from. And I heard an accent. And I said, well, where are you from? And he said, Ethiopia. And I said, wow, what brought you here? How long have you been here? What do you think of our country? And he said, if you don't mind me asking, are you here for the convention? And I said, yes, I am. And he got really excited. He started asking me a million questions. And he said, you know, here in Colorado, we have 9 electoral votes. And I think we're going to be a very important swing state in this election. I think we'll swing towards Obama. My question is, where's Ohio going to be? And he was just like strategizing this entire thing. And I was amazed. And I said, wow, you realize that you probably know more about how we pick our president than people who were born here and are going to cast a vote in this election? I said, I'm really kind of embarrassed. I don't even know who the president of Ethiopia is. And he looked at me through the rearview mirror. And he said, ma'am, you don't have to know who the president of Ethiopia is. The president of Ethiopia can't hurt your children. The president of Ethiopia can't help your children. The president of the United States of America affects all of us, everyone in the world, but we don't get to vote for them. We don't vote for them. You do. All that we can do is hope and pray that you choose wisely. And so, delegates, we will not sit quietly and politely. We will unite our members and the nation. We will fight for the candidate that will fight for our students from preschool to graduate school, the one who respects collective collective bargaining and retirement security and dreamers, and we will know which one is an erratic, reckless demagogue who speaks from hate and ignorance. We are not afraid of demagogues and bullies. We will act. We will harness our passion for our students. We will not waste our collective power. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We will do the right thing for the ones that will respect our professions. Go, fight, win, delegates. Mil gracias, mis hermanos y hermanas. Be warriors. Adelante, ya es tiempo.